It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Kristi Gray, an expert in dental billing and office management, and is the founder of ClaimsNest, and is here today to talk about why you need ClaimsNest. With 25 years managing and working in private dental practices and a DSO, she knows what it takes to make sure your practice is profiting from the work that you're doing. She is passionate about educating dentists about the things they don't realize they need to know. She has attended multiple training classes and seminars throughout her tenure on how to manage an office and make an office profitable. She has trained and managed many front desk staff, starting out with zero knowledge to helping them have a successful career. She's here today to help you understand why you need her and probably didn't even know. She wants you to be able to relax and focus on dentistry, knowing that you'll be paid for the time you're working. She founded ClaimsNest after she tried working for a company doing dental billing for offices and was frustrated at what they weren't doing and what they could be doing to help the doctor and the staff. She decided she should go for it. She has the knowledge and the passion. She wants to make things better for doctors and staff. And again, it's never a commercial. She didn't pay to get here. I called her because I love my homies because, man, they go to school 8 years to heal with their hands. I mean, they live in a operatory surgery. It's just, it's an amazing work. And when you go on Dental Town, they only want to talk about clinical, except during a pandemic. Then they want to talk about what the hell's, the pandemic. But man, when they're doing good, they don't think about your department for 1 second. They're so excited to place an implant or do a root canal. And my gosh, they need to know what's going on at the front desk. What percent of dentists do you think understand the front office business functions?
Oh, I can't imagine. I would say it's a super small percent. I've worked with many dentists, especially when I worked in a dental management corporation. And
you worked with a dental management corporation?
yes, that was, initially I started out with a private practice, and then they grew and started opening more offices, and then they were bought out. And then I ended up going back to private practice, but I've kind of been all over the place. So I worked with newbies, and I've worked with dentists that have been in it forever. The dentists that have been in it forever often seem to just trust that their staff knows. Years ago, my husband and I were moving to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I was looking for another job in the dental industry. And I had an office ask me, they wanted to run a credit report. Well, I was pretty young, and it would have offended me. So I just moved on. But now, looking back, it makes perfect sense. You're letting people handle your finances, and I don't think doctors look at it that way. I don't think they realize how much control they're giving people that actually, do you know how they're handling their own finances? If they can't manage their own, they probably shouldn't be managing yours. So,
what I'm really proud of, Dennis, is, every 3 or 4 months there's something flying across social media of somebody, some office managers that embezzled, $300,000, but one of them was $700,000, and he didn't know it. And I said, what a great business when someone can steal $700,000 cash and you don't even know it. I mean,
absolutely.
that wouldn't happen at a Chinese restaurant buffet. I mean, that just would never happen. My gosh. So, what do you find the most challenging in trying to get dentists to understand the business of dentistry?
Well, I think the problem is they don't know what they don't know, and getting them to understand that they don't know. I went from managing dental offices to leaving that to now just trying to reach dentists to say, hey, now that I've stepped back and I look at it, this is a great opportunity to have somebody else handle your accounts receivable and manage the things that the people in your office don't have time to do. The doctors want to keep the schedule full. I feel like in any office, that's what doctors were always looking for is my schedule's not full. There's a hole. Did you fill it? And that's the pressure. However, we know we've got this looming AR over here that we need to address. Like we've got all these claims that are outstanding, and the doctors don't realize it. They want their schedule full. So we work on filling the schedule and we get it filled, but nobody ever, and people often don't want to admit, I don't have the time to do it, because front office people either don't care or they want you to think they can handle it all. And so often they just don't get to it, or they'll get to it, an hour here, an hour there, but it really needs a lot of focus. So you've got that appointment filled, but you don't have somebody making sure that you're collecting the money from the appointment. So it's counterintuitive. It doesn't really make sense that you care so much about filling the appointment, but you're not making sure that you're collecting money. I think that's a big thing.
It's so frustrating, and I think a lot of it's not the dentist's fault, because when I was 10 years old, my dad started a Sonic Drive-In, and that I was born in '62, so this is 1972, and just his little cash register with the little paper roll by who made that? It was a cash registers, whatever, but it was rolled into IBM later. It had more reality easy data for that day. I mean, you at the end of the day, you could hit the roll tape, and my dad would do it, and I'd always look at it, and then I learned to do it, and it'd say, okay, today we did $1,200. The food cost is 31%. The crew labor was 19%. Blah 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 blah, and you netted 12%, and and $212. And then when you make the night's deposit, this amount went into the savings account. It was profit dollars clean. You knew it was yours, and nothing but net, and the rest, and then I come out of school in '87, and now I'm almost 59, and my gosh, I use Open Dental. It's not even connected to Quicken or QuickBooks Pro, or I use Peachtree, because when I got an MBA, I wanted more stuff than Quicken for an individual. But so these guys, if they would have not gone to dental school and right now owned a Long John Silver's or a Dairy Queen, it would be 100 times easier to do this. But the dentists they've never demanded that Dentrix and EagleSoft and now Open Dental, they never demand a complete system. You have to use dashboards that pull numbers from all this. I'm hoping AI around the corner will be able to say, hey, doc, you just scheduled an hour for these two fillings, and you're on a PPO schedule. Each one's only going to give you $140, and you're only going to gross $280, and this room's going to cost you $295. So enjoy sitting in there for an hour doing 2 MODs to lose money. And then the receptionist making that initial appointment could shorten the appointment. Say, well, instead of an hour, we'll go 45 minutes. And I've been screaming this for ever since the computer came out. And the dentists are like, you tell them that, and they're like, oh, what implant do you use? And that's why I love them. But everything you're interested in, they're just not. When you worked for the DSO, did you think they were a lot better at focusing on the business of dentistry and all the business functions? Did you think they were ran better, more efficiently?
There were a lot more eyes on things. I'll say that more than anything. The dentist didn't really necessarily have to worry about it. As an employee, I wasn't crazy about working for DSO.
And why is that?
Well, I'm working for a corporation, and they're telling me what to do. And then I have doctors that are also working for the corporation, but the doctors want to be doctors, and they kind of want to be in charge. So I felt like there was just a struggle there between, it was almost as if I was in a higher power position than they were in. And so I felt like I was the bad guy a lot of times. It was okay. I did well at that. But as far as the relationship with the dentist, it wasn't the best. I always kind of felt bad for them, I guess.
So you felt sorry for them?
Well, just because I think, they wanted to be in charge of their own thing. But I think a lot of doctors start out that way so that eventually they can run their own. But yeah, it was a bit of a struggle for that reason, but I did well there myself. I don't feel like I was well liked. That's the only thing, because I was doing what I was told to do. So,
Well, you know what's interesting, like I say, around the world, you go any country in the world, and geometry, a sine, a tangent, a cosine is exactly the same. But then when you switch to political terms, they're all different. They're not scientific, and even within a country, they mean different words. But I think it's very profound that the word socialism it first comes up and is used as the workers demanding the right to own their means of production, because you're at a fork in the roads where over here you own your land and the kings and queens and noble landlords that come steal half your crop in taxes. But then they started saying, oh, well, we're going to steal your land and then you work on it and give us half. And that's where they drew swords and fought until no way. And so dentists didn't go to school 8 years to lose their means of production. And it's great in good times. It's great when everything's going great. But when the economy contracts, and I've lived through 4 of them, the associates they're let go. They're just thrown out the window. They just open the window and say, get out of here, little birds. But if you own your means of production, you can adjust, you can downsize, you can change your hours, do emergencies. So yeah, I think that if you go to 8 years of college and be a dentist, it's probably a damn good idea to own your means of production. And talk about that forever. But so what are you mostly working on? Is it mostly insurance billing and account receivables from insurance over 30, 60, 90 or over patients? Or succinctly, what is your, when I go to McDonald's, it's a Big Mac fry and a Coke. What's your Big Mac fry and a Coke?
Yeah, my main goal is to focus on your accounts receivable. Make sure that you're getting paid for the time that you're spending in the chair. Make sure the claims aren't just sitting there because no one has time to work them, or they maybe don't have the knowledge to work them. I enjoy a good battle with the insurance company. Their goal is to not pay, and I know that, and my goal is to make them pay. So I can do anything from handling your accounts receivable, submitting your claims, posting your payments. Those are kind of the main things that I'm working on right now. But I also, I had a doctor reach out recently that she did not know where some of her money was going. And I threw out some ideas just off the cuff. Hey, check these things. And she did check those things. And actually she did find some fraud going on. I know how you can, just from working in a dental office for so long and managing, I know how people can be slimy and what they could do. And it's not worth it for people that are smart, in the long run, you're going to get caught. But, I'm pretty good at figuring those things out because I know what goes on and how easy it could be to do if a doctor's not paying attention. So anyway, I guess to get to your question, mainly it's handling accounts receivable, making sure that you get paid, but I am knowledgeable enough to help with other things as well. And I'm willing to do that. Actually, I'm super passionate about that. I want to help doctors. I was super excited when I got that phone call in 2 ways. One, because I'm glad she called me to talk to me about it, but I'm also bummed that could possibly be happening. And one of the things that I said to check into is actually what was going on. So I like to fix things, and I don't know, I'm kind of just, I can do all of the things, but those are my main focus because I think that the front office doesn't have enough time and too much leverage is given, I guess. Sometimes doctors have their staff sign them up for all the PPOs. They have them set up their accounts so that direct deposits are coming in. There's a lot that can be switched around when you're in charge of doing those things. So it's important to make sure that doctors are looking at reports and things are matching. And those are the things that I talk to with that specific doctor. So
the first time I brought someone in for this and to help me, she was a trainer. And back in '87, the number one software was SoftDent. It was owned by Kodak, a big old nifty 50 company, just huge. And I tracked down the best trainer for Arizona was Sandy Wilkinson, and she come by and she was telling me it was kind of, when the first came, it was like a fire department. You have all these problems you got to fix and all this stuff. And I said, look, I don't want you to come here and put out the fires. I want to hire you full time and set up the systems so that I don't need a fireman later. And she said, she laughed. She goes, you couldn't afford me. And I said, well, I'm gonna do it. And she told me the price, and I swallowed hard and did it. And it was the best move I ever made. Is there you've worked with all these softwares, Dentrix, EagleSoft, whatever, Open Dental. Is there any of them better at this than others? Or is there any systems you like more for that young kid that's working in DSO right now and wants to set up his own shop someday?
Well, I would say Open Dental is probably a good way to go right now. I think EagleSoft and Dentrix are the most well-known. I think that's what most offices use. So yeah, but just from what I'm hearing from other doctors and just the people that are using it, I think Open Dental and just the different forums that I'm on, I think Open Dental might be the way to go. But I don't know that there's a perfect one. I think you just have to find one and stick with it, and you have to have good people in place to manage it.
Yeah, the deal with Dentrix is reach critical mass. I mean, you put an ad out for anybody in a dental office, and since they're the number one market share, they got about half the market. Half the people that come in, they know that. But every time I podcast a high-tech company doing anything, they're all programming to Open Dental because it's open. And that's why Open Dental is open, and that's why it was started, because the founder was trying to download his patient addresses and found out that not only could he not, but they had actually gone in and spent a lot of time building firewalls, so he couldn't. And he called the owner, and he said, well, and the guy from Dentistry said, well, that's our data. Oh. He's like, what the hell? I'm in Oregon. You're in Utah. How the hell's my patients your data? So he started his own. So he got pissed off. Reminds me why I started my dental magazine. I mean, every time I got published in the Journal of the American Dental Association, they edited it out till it was a fluff piece. And I'm just like, well, why did you take that out? They'd always say, well, Howard, we can't say that. I mean, and it's like, okay, so I know how I can get published. I'll just start my own magazine, and then and isn't it weird? I own the magazine. I'm always the first article in the magazine. I mean, what were the odds of that? I mean, just unbelievable. So let's so I think that when you are setting up a dental office, and you're young and you're out of school, well, you can't train some 24-year-old kid to go up there and do that. You need to hire the oldest, most experienced. I mean, if you've only got 4 years out of school, you need someone with 24 years out of school, and you just got to hire the best to cover all those areas that you don't understand. But when you, what is a typical client like you? Why do they call you? And is it to go in there because it's a mess and put out a bunch of fires, or are they trying to base out systems and make it more efficient? Who's your customer?
Well, most of the time they don't call until there is a fire. So yes, that's typically doctors that their accounts receivable is so high that they finally noticed it, or they don't know where their money is going. But what I wish dentists would realize is you need me before that, and you probably they need me now.
And what are their fires? Well, when you said they usually don't call you, there's a fire. What is the fire usually?
Well, there's a huge accounts receivable that's, over the top, and they don't think they'll ever be able to recover from this. Will I be able to get this money, or is it all going to have to be written off because they didn't pay attention to it until now? Or their office manager left, and she handled everything, but it really wasn't being handled. Or I don't know. My bank account says I have this much, but my software says I should have this much, but it's not matching, and my money's going somewhere. So those are the kinds of calls that I get. But it's not just those people that need me. And I think in the most well-run office, an office manager needs help. I'm not trying to replace everyone. There are maybe some people that could stand to be replaced, but there are a lot of people that they either don't have the knowledge or they don't have time.
So when you talk about account receivables, AR account receivables, what is the benchmark that you like to see? What is your numbers, 30, 60, 90? What's your goal?
I mean, the goal would be to not have anything over 30 days, but that's the goal. Typically 30 to 60. I don't think there are probably very many offices that don't have someone specialized working on it that are even in that range. 30 to 60, I think, is probably unheard of for an office that doesn't have somebody that's just simply focused on doing that every day.
And so you would like, so if your dental office produces $1 a month, you would like to have less than $1 in the account receivables.
Well, I mean, obviously, I guess you have last month's receivables that you're still, I guess it's over 30, anything over 30.
And what's the worst? What's the worst you've seen? Over 30, over 60, over 90?
Oh, well over 100. Yeah,
Well over 100 grand at 60 or 90?
Over 90.
Yeah. And how do you usually approach that? How do you start to work that problem?
Well, it depends on the office. If you have an office that has a staff that can manage, what the current, I can start on the old things and kind of start catching that up. But you usually kind of want to just get things under control from the start. And then, once you've managed the current things, start working on the older, but you have to be careful because the older claims, once they get, over a year, insurance will say that they're not going to pay. And then you have to look and, see when you last submitted and if they've ever like sent you anything back on that. And then it goes from that day. So it gets a little complicated, but it's certainly doable. It's just, it's a full-time job.
Yeah. And so the dentist will tell you they don't like to sell dentistry, so they don't like to present treatment, and most of them don't track their success rate, which means they don't even want to think about it. And that's the main thing about being a great dentist. I mean, if someone comes in and has a cavity and you can't convince them of the value in treating it, well, it doesn't matter your dental skills. You're not a very good dentist. The cavity just walked out the door. Then the second thing is, if I go to McDonald's and order a Big Mac, the 16-year-old kid says, "Give me $3." And if I don't give them $3, I don't get a Big Mac. So you take order, take money, deliver dentistry. And they always take order, deliver dentistry, and then try to figure out who's going to pay for this at the end. So do you think the doctor should present the treatment plan? I mean, the finances? I mean, the dentist has to present the treatment and the price. Because when a dentist says, yeah, it's a crown, I know it's $1,000, but, this is what you're going to need. But when the doctor says it, the patient owns it. And then when the doctor says, well, would you rather have removable denture or an all-on-4 implant upper and lower? And they go, oh, I like the implant. Yeah, well, you didn't tell them it's 50 grand. The full mouth denture is $3,000. And you want somebody from the front to come in and shell shock him with his $3,000 to $50,000, and then when you tell him how much this is, and you get the reaction like, "Oh well, God, there's no way I can afford that." Well, then the doctor's there. You start looking more at the lower cost options. So the dentist has to present the treatment and with the price. It doesn't have to be dollars and cents. They ask you what your insurance pays, whatever. Say, well, they can go over that up front. But when you go in there, do you think the dentist, the office should collect the patient's portion before they're numbed up and treatment started?
I think that's a great idea. I don't think that very many dentists would get on board for that. But I think it's a great idea. The only problem, I guess, is, you go in and, you maybe collect the copay for fillings and the patient's back there and, there's more decay than they thought. So it changes. And then the patient knows more on the way out. And I know that's been the struggle, I think, because I've worked in offices who have talked about, let's collect up front, but then it changes before they come out. I think, not a big deal. You just let them know this is what we estimate it to be today. And, it could change a little bit. And, when the doctor gets into the tooth and finds that it's different than what they saw on the x-ray or what they anticipated, then, they just say, hey, they'll talk to you up front about what the difference might be. But I think that's the biggest thing. Doctors don't want to collect for one thing and then things change while they're back there.
So let's talk about that, because that's a very important deal, that satisfaction equals perception of what is happening minus what I expected. So you get some young doc that's, says, oh, this will be a MOD filling. And then he gets in there, and then it turns into a crown. Well, that's $200 to $1,000. And I always made, for 30 years, I always made my young associates. I said, okay, well, you're still going to get paid 25% of a filling because you did this backwards. And it's so weird, because if I think it might be close to the nerve, and I think this is a serious chance it might be close to the nerve, I don't start talking percentages, because I'm not a palm reader. I go to the more aggressive treatment and treatment plan for a root canal, billet, and crown, and they're all prepared for that. And then you go in there, and sure enough, on your 2-dimensional X-ray, 3-dimensional tooth, it doesn't turn out that way, and you're able to just do a crown and no root canal. Now you're the hero. Now you can sit there and say, oh my gosh, Kristi, I'm so sorry. I know you're all excited about getting a root canal. The X-ray, it looked like it was in, but it's a 2-dimensional picture, but turns out it did not go into the nerve, and so you don't need a root canal. And they're like, oh my God, thank God. They're all happy. And then that versus the other side. It's the same thing after treatment. They'll do a root canal, and the patient will say, will I have any pain afterwards? Do I need any pain med? No, man, you had no problems at all. You might need one buffer, and you're okay. And then you set their expectation, no problem. Well, you can only go down from there. And when they ask me, do you think I'll have pain after this extraction? I'll say, well, do you have a gun at home? Because you're probably going to want to shoot yourself in about 6 hours from now. And my God, I always prepare them for the worst. And then they come running back in next time saying, oh my God, remember you said it would hurt like hell? It didn't even hurt. And I'm like, well, yeah, because you're married. You're used to pain and suffering. And, if you were a single person, it would have killed you. But you always want to lower their expectations and then meet or exceed them. That's why salespeople, you look at the Fortune 500 data for, say, going back to 1950, the vice president of sales and marketing never makes it to the CEO shop, because their whole mentality is to overpromise so that you buy, and then they underdeliver, and that you can sell like that, but you can't run a company like that. You have to underpromise and overdeliver to make anybody happy. So, doc, you just, when you can't diagnose and treatment plan the more aggressive thing that's very likely to happen, and then it happens, that's all you. The patient's upset because of you. When you submit, so you like open dental, what about submitting the insurance claims digitally, electronically? You do that after each patient you check out, you do it at the end of the day, end of the week. How do you do that?
If offices will allow me to do it, I like to do it so that I make sure that the proper attachments are with each claim. So for my offices, I would do it at the end of the night when they're finished. If they choose to do that themselves, that's perfectly fine. But when I'm working in office, that's what I usually do. And it helps me, because if the claim goes the right way the first time, then more than likely the office is going to get paid, and there's less to follow up on. But and less correspondence coming back saying we need the X-ray that you didn't send. But yeah, I think it's fine. You can do it either way. But I think it's good to have a person that knows what they're doing and make sure the proper attachments are there.
So when people have really high account receivables, over 30, 60, 90, and of the insurance portion, what percent of it is actually the dentist's fault that they submitted those claims incorrectly the first time?
I don't think that I've seen a large percentage of it being the dentist's fault. And to be honest, a lot of time it is left up to the front office as far as what code we're charging. So that they kind of have to know. And I don't know, I guess that's another thing, dentists should probably not just rely on the fact that their assistant or their front office person knows the right code, but that does happen a lot.
And you know, like Chase, they have an app on your phone. You know, I mean, I know dentists who that they look at the deposit. They would know that, well, why was there no cash? Or they might have noticed the deposit had, you know, this amount of money, you know. But there's other dentists that don't even have their own bank app on their own phone. They never check, they never look. It's all just trust with this office manager who is the godmother of his child at his baptism and all this stuff like that. And then when they get embezzled, it's kind of funny because number one, the dentist is so successful that you know, he was able to cash flow it, and it happened. I mean, like say, you can't steal $700,000 from Subway when you're working there. They don't have it. But my gosh, it just emotionally crushed him. It's like a Yelp review. It's like I've seen some of the most unbelievably amazing dentists, and someone gives them a Yelp review, and my God, they're just deflated. I mean, it's like they got ran over by Tom Brady and just completely deflated. It's like, come on, dude, you know, I mean, you know, so they're it's kind of crazy like that, but they worry about the embezzlement the most. And then when they're thinking they're really busy, but they're not making that income, then they start wondering, well, is someone taking the profit? So talk embezzlement. Is it more hype than what you see in the field? I mean, do you see it? Or how common is it?
Well, I would say, you know, going back to just the situation that I was referring to, I don't know how common it is. I think it's likely that it is a lot more common than dentists realize. Out of the offices that I've worked in, the only office that ever required me to show them at the end of the day the credit card receipt and, you know, the balance sheet from the credit card company that tells you exactly what was deposited for the day through the credit card machine, and compare it to what print out of the computer, and show you the adjustments, was when I was working for a dental management company. I never worked for a dentist in a private practice that required me to show them those things. And they absolutely 100% should be looking at those at the end of the night. If you're doing nothing else, you need to see that the slip from the credit card company matches what was deposited into your account, and your cash matches what's on the deposit slip, that, you know, based on what your dental software says. Cash and, you know, and credit cards are probably the easiest way for somebody to be fraudulent in a dental office. And also adjustments, you know, it's really easy to post something as a payment and then adjust it off if no one's paying attention to the adjustments.
So I knew a practice management consultant for years, and she unfortunately just passed away last year, Sally McKenzie, unbelievable. And what used to blow her mind is she would say, when I tell them my fee to come in there, she goes, I don't even tell them that it couldn't even cost you a penny, because whatever that daily rate is or whatever, just auditing charts as they're at the end of the day, she's like, okay, well, you know, you took a bite wing to see if that crown was seated, but you didn't bill out the bite wing. The hygienist did bite wings, and she didn't enter the bite wings, but she could find $200, $300, $400, and in really young staff, high turnover situations, sometimes she could find, you know, $500 a day. And she's like, and then she would get on the phone and waiting for the doctor so she could talk to him or whatever, and she'd just start calling accounts receivable, and she says, hello, this is Sally from Dr. Ferran's office, and I just noticed that your account receivables, it just passed 60 days, so I'm going to need your credit card. Do you have Visa or American Express? And like almost every one of them would give her the Visa card number and everything, and she'd say, yeah, well, I was waiting for you for 2 hours because you had to take that emergency. I collected another $4,000 of account receivable, so I've already paid for my whole deal, and I haven't even started working yet. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's money. It's why the casino business, I mean, it's the only business where people just go and throw their money away, and dental office consultants are talking about your money. They're not talking about how you obturate a root canal. And I just have 32 years of almost zero examples where the return on investment from anybody coming in on business function, HR, account receivables, practice management. But my gosh, I still don't know how so many people made any return on investment on $50,000 YAG lasers and all these expensive toys they buy. I mean, you look at CAD CAM. I mean, everybody was saying you had to buy a Dentsply or own a Cerac machine forever. And then you look at big data like, say, Heartland, where they have 1,000 offices. And of the 1,000 offices, only 35 are still using their Cerac machine. All the other ones are a coat rack, a coat hanger, whatever. And that same guy who bought a $135,000 Cerac machine, it's been sitting there in the back office like a coat rack for 5 years, doesn't even know his account receivables, doesn't know he's being embezzled, doesn't know that every day $200, $300, $400 of dentistry doesn't even get charged out, billed out, whatever. And then, and it's almost comical. And that's why I think the DSOs, they think they're going to take over the world. Well, they've already said they're not going to go into rural, so they're not going to take over half of America. They're not even going to go to half America. But my God, the thing they do the best, from what I see, is all the business functions, starting with profitability, their numbers, and then answering the phone. I mean, my God, there's a call center right up the street from me for Aspen. I've gone down there. I mean, it just blow your mind. And what's also really interesting is they won't hire anyone with dental experience, because they said it's just like golf. If you have a horrible swing, I can't unbreak it. But if you're fresh and you let me start with you, boom, my gosh, I mean, they can convert half the people that call to schedule an appointment. And then you go to a dental office and doc doesn't even record he can't tell you how many incoming calls. He can't tell you how many of them go to voicemail, how many went to voicemail that never even listened to. I mean, none of that. And then he tells you that he needs to do more dental marketing. And then he starts posting memes on Facebook. So it's frustrating. So why do you like this job?
Well, I love to see the results. I am very results driven. I also, because I've worked with dentists for so long, I want to help them. I feel, again, I keep saying I feel bad, but I do. I feel bad because they come out of dental school and they don't know this. They weren't trained for these things. They were trained to do dentistry. And that's what they're passionate about. And I want them to be passionate about that. I want to do what I know how to do and what I'm passionate about, and collect money and see the smile on their face and see them relax when they walk out the door, because they're getting paid for what they did. So that's why I love this job. I love to make them happy. I'm a people pleaser. And I also think that they're just, like I said, they don't know. They don't know they need me, and you don't know what you don't know. So that's the hardest part, is getting to the doctors and getting them to know that they need me. And they also need to be careful, because, as I said, I did for a very short time work for a company because I thought this was a super great idea. And I worked for a company, but I quickly learned that there really was they hired a lot of employees to do the work, and they wanted to get bigger and bigger and bigger and get more and more offices. But they weren't checking to actually make sure that the people that they were hiring knew the software that they were working in, that they were actually doing what they were supposed to be doing every day. And that was frustrating to me, because I wanted to help offices. And then I see these people paying for something that they're actually not getting. And so they basically just hired the same front desk person that they already had, but they're paying for it again. So that's why I want to do this. I want to do it right. I'm starting small. I'm a new business, and I don't want a lot of clients. I want a few clients. And if I get to the point that I need more than just me, I have a few people. I've actually had several people ask me to come work with me, but I want everything fine-tuned. And if you come to work with me, we're going to sit down and we're going to go through it before I would ever allow anybody to even touch accounts that I'm responsible for. So I have trained people with no experience. And actually, those were the best employees that I had. It's hard when people come into an office and they say they know everything. They don't really always know everything, but they know the way they learned it. And that is hard to untrain. And and it's difficult to work with, but it's also hard to take the time to train somebody. A lot of people don't want to take the time to do that. They don't have time to do that. I have helped a lot of people have careers that probably, wouldn't be in the dental industry and are super successful now because I did take the time to train them. But it's time consuming and it takes a lot, but it's worth it.
You said you're a people pleaser. You know what the fastest way to someone's heart is?
I'm not sure what the answer to that is.
Heart surgery. And if I went to a cardiovascular surgeon, that's why I love my homies. I mean, I would love the cardiovascular surgeon to just eat, live, and breathe, and die and sleep when he's, and I'm in good hands during the heart surgery. And I think it would be just a good thing if he didn't know any of his account receivables and all this stuff like that, because he was doing his job. But they don't have a teammate. They don't have someone on their team. I mean, everybody talks about Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Well, there's 9 other people on that line, and there's someone standing there back with him. I mean, it's a team sport, and they'll hire an office manager, and they won't even do a background check. I mean, I saw this one dental embezzlement case, and she had done it in like Florida, then Georgia, and now she was out in California doing it. And it's like, I mean, every job she goes, how does someone hire someone that was a convicted embezzler in another state and then let him? I mean, so background checks are and credit checks. I mean, when you have poor credit, there's might be something going along with that. Maybe you're crazy. Maybe you don't pay your bills. Maybe you have issues, and so they trust people. So what I recommend for embezzlement is you got to break this stuff up. You can't have the person getting the checks from the mailbox, entering them in the computer, making the deposit. And what I don't see is every doc I talk to, I talked to this kid last night, and I said, well, tell me your family that lives, within 5 miles of your dental office or in the same city or whatever. And sure enough, his brothers, sisters, roommate's cousin is a CPA or an accountant or a bookkeeper. You got a bunch of stay-at-home moms. Only 60% of women work in the workplace. So 4 out of 10 of your relatives aren't in the workplace. And like, I have a lady that just comes in once a month. She comes in once a month for half a day, and she just sticks her nose in every little deal. And then she always jokingly tells me that I should fire her because she thinks I got these best people. I got a bunch of people that have been here 20 years, but that was, I had to go through some people and thin the herd to collect these people. It's like, these weren't first round draft picks. These were, a lot of your star players. They just show up. You hired him because it was convenient and nice, and you thought it was going to work out. Then you realize a year or two later, my God, I got an MVP player here. And then those are the ones that stay on your team forever. But you got to be checks and balance. And that's my 2 favorite themes of 5,000 years of history is you got to have transparency and checks and balances. You can call it competition, what have you. But when something's opaque and you can't see what's going on, it's never going to be good. I always make the joke that when I was raising 4 boys, they each had their own rooms, but mine, when they all went into one room and shut the door, well, they might as well just ring a bell. Hey, we don't want Dad to see. And, they stole all the Oreos or Cheez-Its or whatever the hell. And you need transparency. Just like that Snowden. I mean, the whole deal with Snowden, it's like, why can't America see that? The government's really upset, and what little bit he showed you, the only answer should be, my gosh, we need to put all that shit on Wikipedia tonight. When is the president just going to say, I want everything from, pick a date, pick a year, at least, 1975 or whatever, and put it all on transparency, and then you would get to see how messed up the government is. And when you look at these crazy, you say, oh, well, that's a conspiracy theory. No, because his intuition knows something's wrong. He just doesn't know what it is, but he knows something is out of whack. And these dentists, they don't have transparency of their numbers. They can't run the reports. They don't have their bank app on their phone. They can't just be after dinner, you're surfing YouTube looking for NFL games or whatever, and you see, and you open up your bank app, and you notice something like that, and then checks and balance. You get embezzled from when you have one little dictator up there that can do everything, and she doesn't. She's always the first one there, last one to leave. She doesn't take vacation. She's a control freak, and she knows she's only got to fool one person, the doctor. So she brings them bagels and Starbucks, and I mean, he thinks she's the best one on the team, and she's the one stealing him blind. And the reason she's stealing him blind is because she can. There's no checks and balances. There's no transparency. That's the whole deal. Dental coding. Dentists, do you think dentists understand dental coding? What letter grade would you give on dental coding? I mean, do they, some people say they improve their insurance collections because they had more specific codes. What do you think about insurance billing and dental coding?
I suppose the dentists that I've worked with in the private practices, I felt like they were pretty up to speed on their codes. But typically there was always one person in the office that was kind of the guru, kind of kept up on the newest codes that just came out for the year. And everybody went to that person when they weren't sure. But in the offices that I've worked in, for the most part, I felt like the doctors knew or their staff knew. I don't know. I don't feel like I've seen a ton of errors because codes were wrong.
So you talked about SoftDent. Is there any accounting system that you like? Do most people just use QuickBooks, QuickBooks Pro, any of that stuff?
I think QuickBooks is pretty common.
And then the schedule, the schedule, they always want a full schedule because you just think if you're busy, you're going to work. And it's so sad when you see some young dentist and they got to stay home with a wife, with a couple kids, and they're doing everything right and they're hustling, they're working hard, but they work through their lunch to do these 3 fillings on this person, and they don't even know that they're going to lose money on the deal, that the overhead of the operatory. I mean, so you got 168 hours in a week, and the country doesn't need to build a dental office for a year because they're open 32 hours a week, which means 81% of the total dental capacity is not being used each year. So why you come out of school, I still think there should be some Uber dental thing where if you just need a dental office, you just say you text me and say, I want a dental checkup, and I just look on the deal and say, oh, I'll go to Dr. Good's office. I'll meet you there in an hour and do that. And then they didn't collect the patient's portion, and they're hustling, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a business function. Did you get the $3 for the Big Mac? And is your price, your clearance price in the market, is it above your cost? And if your price isn't above your total cost of goods and services, you're doing charity dentistry. And I have no problem with charity dentistry. I just want to know when I'm doing charity dentistry. I don't want to be doing charity dentistry and unaware of it, especially someone that pulls out in a $30,000 F-150 pickup truck, and but I'm supposed to do his teeth for free. So on Dental Town, I love your post on Dental Town. I love your accounts receivables out of hand, $150,000. I mean, just but I'm not sad for that guy because he's on Dental Town. He's posting about it, and I know my homies. I mean, they didn't understand calculus the first day they walked in there, but if they decide they're going to learn calculus, they can do it. And then the other thing, I like your post. Having managed dental office for 25 years, I believe that outsourcing is the way to go. It's just so hard to keep up on all things properly, and often the staff doesn't have the knowledge they need. Just be sure to research the company, ask for references. I've seen some that are doing it well and some that are taking advantage. A dentist, uses 12 specialties in dentistry: oral surgeons, endodontists, periodontists. It's a team effort, and if this pandemic did anything really positive. It took trends like working from home that I have 50 employees and probably 5 of them have worked from home. So I already had set up the infrastructure for that 10%. So when we had to scale that to everyone in the media company, it was no big deal. But this really accelerated the trend from working from home. I don't know why. You can't do everything on Zoom. Why do you have to get on an airplane, fly across the country, sit in a Holiday Inn so that I can tell you the same thing I can tell you on FaceTime or Zoom right now? I mean, and I assure you that you don't want to be close enough to me to smell me. So why do we have to be in the same room? Do you think that your business will do better now that people are switching to virtual and working from home and Zoom meetings and are getting more used to this?
I think so. I think now more than ever, it should do better with the pandemic. I've talked to several dentists that have staff in and out because they're having to quarantine from just exposure, and it's affecting the way the office runs because their staff's not there 100% of the time, and the doctor doesn't know day to day, like, oh, I woke up this morning and now this person has to quarantine. So I don't need to be in your office. I can do everything from home, so I can keep the money coming in for you, whether you're the one who's quarantining or it's your staff member. So yeah, I think now more than ever, it's the best time. It's also the hardest time to get to dentists to let them know.
So I think it's funny on that one account receivables deal. This guy's talking about what his account receivables are, and he's telling this nightmare story. And the first guy that responds says, "Oh, by the way, dude, what courses do you recommend for sinus lifts, GBR, FMR cases?" And it's like, that's my homies. I mean, you show him a nightmare problem up front, and he's still thinking sinus lifts, GBR, FMR, and that's the cardiovascular surgeon I want cutting on me probably any day now. I don't know if it'll be today or tomorrow or the next 10 years, but you just need to focus on that. But I'll tell you how little they know their costs. I know some oral surgeons around here that kind of laugh at some of the older oral surgeons that just do exodontia. They just pull wisdom teeth. They do biopsies. They're just not into implants, and they say, there's so many people that will do that. Oral surgeons, periodontists, I don't need that or whatever. And they have 40% overhead. And then the oral surgeons that do all these big cases and all these implants and lecture and all this stuff like that, their overhead's 65%. So they don't realize that all the implant training, the implant inventory, all the bits and pieces. And I mean, Jerry Resnick started his whole implant deal just because he wanted to package everything you needed from the transfer coping. Everything was going to be an Implants Direct. It was going to be mail order, no rep, no nickel and diming, because he knew how high the overhead got. But these oral surgeons don't even realize, and a lot of dentists don't realize, like, they do these big cases and they think that's where they make all their money. And when you do 5 big cases and one of them fails and you have to redo the whole case for free, you just ate the profits of at least 3, maybe 4. And a lot of these guys, they're big cases. Then you sit there and say, oh, and to do this, here's $100,000 of CE you had to take and the $150,000 CBCT. And they don't realize all the cost that goes into it. And it's sad to explain to him, well, that thing that makes you the most happy in your whole life in dentistry? Yeah, you still haven't even made $1 from that yet. I mean, look at implants. By the time they buy the CBC and they go to Dominican Republic and they buy the implants, they go to these courses, they do all these things, and they're placing one root form once a month. I mean, they've dug a really deep hole, and it's very hard to get out of it. And what's the most truthful and the non-sexy and all that stuff is that your typical bread and butter practice that just, gets 7 to 10 people out of pain a month with an extraction or a root canal, and then just your standard cleanings, exams, x-rays, fillings, and crown and bridge. Those are the ones that are doing $1 million and taking home $250, and the guy's never done a sinus lift, he's never placed an implant, he doesn't have a LANAP, he doesn't have any of this stuff. It's just bread and butter, real world dentistry, but it's the big cases that they live for, but they don't even know the profitability of their big cases. So it's tough. It's tough, tough, tough. So
Absolutely.
I know in lecturing that you always say before the break, okay, well, does anyone have any questions? No one has a question. You say, okay, well, let's take a potty break. And then 15 people have a question. And it's always the same ones. So I'm telling you, Doc, your question can't be unique. But if someone has a question, this is personal. The one thing I've learned about money over the years, it's emotional. You can talk to people about a lot of things. Like if you talk about someone's diabetes or blood pressure or whatever, rheumatism, they're good with that. But man, you start talking about religion, politics, or finance, and account receivables. When they're doing financial arrangements in the front office, and there's people in the waiting room, you say, "Well, Jim, your credit card was declined." Well, now his F-150 just shrank down to a Hot Wheel car, and he wishes he wasn't alive. So when it's money, it's so emotional. So they'll want to have a private talk with you. So how does someone contact you? So your website is ClaimsNest.com. Where does that name come from? ClaimsNest.
Well, my husband is a designer and works for an advertising agency. So he came up with the name actually, but we talked about it, and it's kind of you're putting your claims in my nest, and I'm taking care of them until they're paid and they can go, just like birds, kind of. So I don't know, maybe a little cheesy, but
no, that's why I was wondering if there was a bird in there. So if you go to ClaimsNest, I see the contact. Are you ready to watch your account receivables go down, stay down, and collections increase? Type in your name of dental practice, email, phone, state, current dental software. I think that's interesting. And your only three choices were Open Dental, EagleSoft, and Dentrix. And then please describe your current billing issue. So is that the best way for them to contact you?
That's typically how people do contact me. I didn't put my phone number on there. Like I said, I am small, and I'll get as big as I need to be, but in a controlled, slow way. I didn't put my phone number just because I think you get a lot of random calls that aren't necessarily looking for help. So that's how people typically reach me. I also have an email address that I'm happy to provide. I can provide my phone number as well.
Well, it doesn't matter. Whatever you feel comfortable doing. What's your email?
Email is Kristi. It's KRISTI at ClaimsNest.com.
And so your website says, how we help. We take your scanned EOBs, explanation of benefits, and post payments the following day. You deposit the checks. ClaimsNest never directly handles your checks or has access to your bank accounts. The entire process is clean and simple. Claims over 30 days are followed up on every 2 weeks until they are paid. We provide all documentation, appeals, and x-rays to get the claims paid. Denials are a challenge to us, and we love to win. Increase collections. Quite simply, we make you money. ClaimsNest will increase your collections and lower your account receivables. Denials overturn. With time to jump through all the insurance hoops, we can turn denials into money in your account. Increase productivity. Your staff will now have proper time to maintain your schedule, verified benefits, focus on the patients. I mean, these call centers for like Aspen and Heartland, Rick told me that his call center in Heartland, that the only limit to its growth in size was able to hire people in that small town. That was the number one growth limit. And that is why Bob Fontana started one out here in Phoenix, because it's a 3.8 million metro. And it's like a 3-story building. I mean, it's just, I think they do like 1.8 million phone calls a month, or just something crazy. But when your staff is on the phone with an insurance company for an hour and calls are coming in or going to account receivables, or I'm going to do this while you go work on that, and then she's talking to someone, so the incoming calls, can you please hold, can you please hold, can you please hold? And then you go into any business in America, the guy in the back on the machine shop making the widgets, that's just a blue collar job. But the person wearing a suit and tie and making the big bucks, that's the person answering the phone, incoming sales opportunities, and dialing for dollars, outpatients. And dentistry, it's reversed. Now the machine shop guy is the doctor and makes 35% of the total take. And the person answering the phone, the salesperson, was just hired off the street because she had dental experience, no training, doesn't know how to close a sale. There's no measurements like, okay, well, of every 100 calls that come in, how many does she convert to a scheduled appointment, but in the dental chair? I don't know. How many incoming calls do you have a day? I don't know. How many get answered, go to voice? I mean, they, if someone else is doing this technical insurance work that takes a lot of training, a lot of skill, and you might be in a small town and you might not even have the opportunity to hire anybody in that town. I mean, for all you know, you could live in Eloy, Arizona, and there's not one person in the whole town that knows what Kristi knows. So that's a highly specialized outsourced thing. And then what you do is increase the everyday customer experience. Like Walmart has everyday low pricing. It's not the new patient experience. It's the every patient, everyday experience. So when you come in, she has time to greet you, talk, small talk, camaraderie, feel the love, they'll never remember what you did, what your insurance was. They usually don't even remember the doctor's name. When I've lectured 1,000 times, and when I'm sitting by someone in an airplane, first thing I do is just download everything I wonder about, all their thoughts and views on dentistry, and 90% of them can't even think of their name. Well, how long you been going to him? Oh man, I've been going to him for like 10 years. Take a stab at the name. Well, we live in Cherry Creek. I know it's Cherry Creek Dental, but his name, oh my God.
Oh.
I mean, she don't even know. So it's this high touch, high feel stuff. So what is there anything in this around the corner? Like I was talking about AI. Do you think dental software, do you think Open Dental will ever contact Quicken and because I've called Quicken myself for a decade and then called Stan Bergman and tell him about what I think you should do with Dentrix and all that stuff. And they said they have entire teams. They say, oh yeah, we have one team just for the auto industry. We have, and they'll go into an industry and they'll say, okay, these are the 5 top operating systems to run, whatever the industry they're looking at. And we just do all the work. We just absolutely connect to it. And I said, well, who are you doing that with dental? And they're like, well, no one's ever called us from dental. I'm just like, oh, it's so frustrating. I remember one time I chewed out Stan for so long, and he's so sweet and he's so nice. I said, okay, I'm gonna send one of my top people. He sent down one of his people with an MBA. We're going to listen to everything you say. We're going to write it down, and we're going to survey 1,000 of our Dentrix users and see if this is something. And she did all the work. It took a lot of time and money and effort. And thank you, Stan Bergman, for doing that. And it came back, and they didn't. No one wanted anything I was saying. And the big takeaway was they wanted to change the font size and the font color of the chart notes.
Wow.
And that's when I realized, dude, you got to change your expectations. You and your homies are on different pages. And who took that page? Rick Workman. And he even said on my podcast that he was listening to me lecture down in Destin, Florida. And he started getting some big ideas for Heartland. And the DSOs are all over this. So if you're an owner-operator and you're the original socialist, as Noam Chomsky would say, you just want to own your means of production, you're going to have to compete with these people. And I like DSOs because I know we wouldn't have gone to the moon if Russia wouldn't have launched Sputnik. I know it takes competition to get people off the couch and do something. And the DSOs have already extended the hours. Now there's dentistry 7 to 7, 7 days a week in most cities. There's better availability. There's all kinds of great things. But if you're going to be an owner-operator, you're going to have to wear many hats. And you got a husband that does your marketing, so you don't have to wear that hat. Do you have someone in your AR? Do you have, who are you using so that you can compete on the level of these DSOs is going to be amazing. And you're not going to be able to do it yourself. Anything else you wanted to talk about or anything else you wanted to say?
No, I think the only thing I would like to highlight is that, I can help you I've had people call me from California, South Carolina, anywhere. You don't have to be where I live. I can help you from anywhere. So, and I'm super eager to. So I hope someone reaches out, and I
Well,
hope I can.
then you should give your cell phone, and if anything, just say text. And also on my iPhone setting, if your number's not on my phone, there's a setting so it doesn't ring or anything, so you can just miss call. And what I tell people is, just text a message who you are, then you decide if you want to call them back. But do you want to give them your cell phone so that they can text you?
Sure. It's 317-771-3657.
All right. Well, Kristi, thanks for helping my homies so they can just keep doing the things they love. And remember, Doc, you only get good at something if you like it, love it, find it competitive challenge. If you don't like something, if you're not interested in it, then be prepared to always have a C, D, F in that grade. And the alternative is to find someone on your team that loves that section. So, if you love what you do, you never work another day in your life. And if you hate insurance, billing, account receivables, and all things accounting, well, there's people that love it. So give Kristi a call. And again, thanks for coming on the show, and have a rockin' hot day.
Thank you. It was an honor to be on your show today.
Thanks, man. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.